All right. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm super excited to have Caleb here with me. He's got a fancy screen, so you know who he is. And we'll already behind there, he's counting the money in the background. I love it. That's awesome. So, Caleb, thank you so much for taking some time with me here today. And before we jump in, I just want to give you a full picture of kind of what we do with these webinars. So they are, we host them every single Thursday. We interview just people who are much smarter and brighter than I am in the industry to give you some feedback and just a nugget of information that you can take towards your business and get to the next level. So I'm Sean Conners. I'm founder and CEO of Contractor Appointments. We do lead generation on a revenue share for contractors. And I'm have the pleasure of meeting with Caleb Nelson here today with Destination Motivation. Caleb, mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
John, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Must have been not so bad the first time. So I own Destination Motivation. We help contractors increase their close rates, help eliminate cancellations, drive more leads. Not from a marketing perspective, how you geniusly do it, but we do it through this vacation voucher system, incentivizing homeowners through that channel.
Yeah, well, I think what's unique about what you do is that I think it's an exact complement to lead generation in every respect. Obviously, you're helping tip more people over and to say yes in the sales process, but not only that, help with keeping those yeses stay a yes, but also like making a differentiation within the industry. So we'll dive into that. I think we'll have plenty to talk about on that stuff. But I want to overall, like, you are touching so many impacts the of the industry at large here. Maybe tell us, give us a little bit of breadth of who you work with within the industry, from like just the size and kind of expertise of how you're, information that within the industry right now. And then we'll kind of dive into some of the meat here of the webinar.
We work with 23 out of the top 30 contractors in the country, according to the top 500. Of course, there are some that aren't on that list that we work with, but and a couple hundred others, mostly replacement contractors. So most of the big companies we work with. So we do see what's happening out there, and we really build personal, ongoing long-term relationships with our clients. So we get a great understanding of sort of what's working and what are some challenges out there, which I'm sure we'll talk about today.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, I think why Wendy have you on here is I think you're touching so many of these large companies and hearing the pain points of what they're running into from a sales side of things. And then I think the number of vouchers you send out on a regular basis to those companies is a direct reflection of how much their sales are actually doing here too, which I think is huge. So I'm curious, just as a whole, like, let's just look big picture first. Like we're 3 months in, to this year. Like, what major trends are you seeing kind of come through the industry as a whole?
It differs, on the demographic. So throughout the U.S., it really depends on which markets you're working from. But there's some major issues going on with credit turndowns. In some areas, I'm seeing them, 15%. In other areas, way north of that. Obviously, there's that faucet of leads that was flowing for the last couple of years has turned off a little bit. So, or corrected, however you want to look at it. So a lot of companies are looking for alternative. I get hit on a daily basis of companies looking for alternative, lead sources, because in a lot of markets, the leads have dried up, and cancellations, which is above and beyond credit declines, just people saying, pump the brakes. That dollar amount might be a little too high for us, and quite possibly we might be able to get a better deal. So cancellations I've seen uptick as well. Those are probably the three main ones.
Yeah, and I'm curious. So obviously there, credit, with we talk about bank collapses and all that kind of stuff, leading to some of that stuff, and just overall generally in the economy, they're tightening up on this credit. Is there anything that you've seen that companies can do to help with any of on the credit decline side of things? Or, I mean, I
I don't know.
anybody doing it? I know that's something that's increasing. We see that with anytime there's even a potential for the recession or anything like that, credit starts being tightened down a little bit. Anything you're hearing that companies are doing well there?
I mean, if you can somehow come up with your own money source,
Internal financing on some of the stuff.
that would be the way to go. But there's a lot of stuff shaking the banking industry right now, and it's too soon to kind of see where the cards will land. But having multiple sources is key, and working with the bigger more stable banks, I would say would be the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the closer you can get to the company actually in the banking company institution that's actually lending the money is huge. The bigger companies within the space, they have direct relationships with the actual lender versus going through intermediary is always, you decrease your dealer fees and you increase your conversational, appetite of what you can get people approved. I think that's a huge one.
The cost of money has definitely gone up. So
absolutely.
Contractors are having to raise prices to absorb that. And I think there's a little part of that that's leading to cancellations. And I mean the HVAC industry, that Tier 2 came out at the beginning of the year, and that increased prices substantially. So they're even noticing some effects from cancellation. And there is something that you can do to help alleviate cancellations, which is something that we focus on pretty heavily here at Dusty.
Well, I think I think the financial side of things, there's little to do that cost needs to be absorbed somehow, and that's kind of the fluctuation of the market here. But yeah, as far as cancellations go, what are you guys doing to kind of help with that cancellations? Obviously, when costs go up and when there's more uncertainty in the market across the board, just in the customers period, it's they might be super excited when you sign the paperwork and they go yes, on that stuff. But let's dive in for a minute here into like what companies are doing and with vacation vouchers to be able to kind of really alleviate that.
Just overall, like most industries right now are focusing heavily on customer experience. I think that's actually like the number one job position right now is like the customer experience role in a company. And every industry is focusing on that, mainly because you can charge more for if the consumer understands that they're going to get a higher quality customer experience. There's also the personalization of products and services. You're probably seeing that on Instagram ads and Facebook ads. A shampoo and conditioner that is personalized to your hair. All of a sudden you're paying, $100 for that, where normally you would pay $20 for your shampoo, and you're justifying it because it's personalized to your hair. And there's a lot of those types of experiences. You see the auto industry doing that. And you see home improvement companies starting to focus on that too. But personalization of products and services really helps with that overall customer experience. But there is that whole element of the consumer still feeling that buyer's remorse or guilt over a purchase. In fact, 82% of consumers feel regret over a purchase, especially when it's a high dollar amount purchase, because it takes so much more effort. You've got 15 different companies with 15 different prices with 15 different products. They're all saying they're the best. And, you're putting a lot of effort into that, especially, on the financial side of it. It just, it weighs on a lot of consumers. And so the more you're able to enhance that overall customer's experience, the less buyer's remorse they're going to have, because it's tangible. Experience is not tangible. Each experience is unique, like a snowflake. And so people typically don't have buyer's remorse with experience. You don't go on a ski trip and be like, maybe unless you break your leg, but why did I do that?
Yeah.
Even when I broke my leg skiing, it was still, up until that moment, one of the best ski trips I've ever had. But, people don't feel regret over experiences. And so the more companies focus on that customer experience and the personalization side of things, the less cancellations they'll have. I've seen companies now, home improvement companies, build out these sort of concierge divisions within their organization to where it's this, sort of red carpet, heavy communication focused, sort of wow factor that gives that homeowner sort of comfort, in their decision-making process, and, excitement and all of those other things that aid in a positive customer experience.
Well, I think the interesting thing, like when you go to the car and you think about like comparable like dollar amount purchases, you go to a car dealership and you walk out with a car that's shinier and newer and has the new car smell, that you can tangibly feel, and you've made a significant amount of purchase and parted with a lot of money, even if it's just on paper. But the home improvement buying experience is, I signed the paperwork for a potential thing that is going to happen in the future. And, it might not happen for 6 weeks, or it might not happen for 12 weeks. And so you're kind of going, you have to deal with that in between and staying, excited about that. There's a lot of room for buyer's remorse in this. It's not like a super individual tangible and one and done and we're moving on. So I'm curious, you kind of mentioned that like rolling out the red carpet. Can you give us some like tangible things of what you've seen companies do, or maybe in this company you're talking about in particular, that are like, what is rolling out the red carpet? What is over communication? There's like, hey, we ordered your materials, like here's the pallet of it in the warehouse. Like there's, like there's some of that could be like, I think there's not enough of that going on period right now, but what other ways can you keep excitement up after the fact?
There's a guy, a guru in the industry, Charlie Gindel, who did this, I don't know, 15 years ago, where he literally rolled out a red carpet over their doorstep, their front doorstep. I mean, who does that? That was,
it's differentiation right there.
Revolutionary, at the time. And, I don't know any other companies that were doing it, but now I'm not saying companies are doing that specifically, but now having sort of that mentality of, how do we go the extra effort? But, a big part of it really comes down to communication, because some contractors, close a deal and they're like, all right, hands off, no one say a word.
Just don't screw it up.
Right. Right. That we pass these 3, very stressful days, and hopefully, God willing, this contract stays legit and they don't cancel on us. Instead of diving in head first, enhancing that customer's experience, communicating, giving them that wow factor. We built a concierge department in our company, and one of the things that we do is we actually make an outbound phone call to every single homeowner that receives one of those vacation vouchers from our client, literally 24 hours after the sale's made. So all of a sudden that homeowners, sitting at home or at work, they get this phone call from us, and our clients let them know they're going to be calling for us, more likely to pick up. And it's just this happy-go-lucky, fun, fluffy, lighthearted conversation, just really shooting the shit about, travel and this, that, and the other. But it makes such an incredible impact because we inject this conversation with positivity, really in an atmosphere of just this doom and gloom that we're surrounded by. So it creates this really unique situation. We help with third-party verification. Oh my gosh, you purchased with Window Nation. Congratulations. They are such a great company. We love them. Now that homeowners like, oh yeah,
Yep.
Great.
You made a good decision. Yeah. You've been third-party validated.
Yep. And then, you're spending the next 20 minutes talking about, where they're going to go on their next vacation, which is, giving them goosebumps.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, and just maybe explain a little bit what your process is your, correct me if I'm wrong, is your salesperson in the house is going, hey, we've got these vacation vouchers, we give it out for free, or maybe it's we're giving it as an incentive for people to sign today, or they use it in different capacities, but at the end of the day, it's a voucher for a cruise or for a hotel stay.
Yeah.
That, and then immediately just setting the expectation, you're gonna get a call tomorrow and they'll talk to you about how you can use it.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
isn't, I think if you go back to our last webinar, I kind of grilled you on my skepticism of, all the questions I had about this stuff, which I think is amazing that you guys have a program that can, because there's a million incentives of going, people have used or third-party incentives to be able to go out there and do. But I think the most unique thing I think about your program is that you're actually calling that person and having a physical connection with the after the fact. It's just like you said, if you sell the deal, most companies are sitting there going going like, just don't call and screw it up.
Yeah.
Don't do anything to screw it up because we called once, or somebody, mistakenly called and said the wrong thing, or confirmed the wrong information or whatever it was, and it canceled the sale. Or that person goes, actually, I've been thinking. It's like, well, if we wouldn't have called them, would they have actually said that? And canceled.
My mom called me, like, this is like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's like, her mom, my grandma, gave her house, and she rented it out, and she's rented it out for the last 15 years, and they've never done like a home improvement project before. Well, the windows started leaking in one of these rainstorms, so for the first time in her life, she had to go get 3 or 4 window quotes.
Mhm.
And so she went through this whole process, and she calls me up and she's like, oh my God, Caleb, I finally understand what it is that you do. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I just got this window quote. They're trying to charge me like $22,000 or something. I'm not going to go on vacation for like 3 years now. And it was like this aha ding, ding, ding moment, which that was pretty funny.
So I think that's obviously, within the industry right now, we're kind of focusing a lot on the post-close side of things of, we sign the paperwork, and now like trying to keep that, customer on, is super important. So that's like from the full customer journey, customer experience piece of it, and really diving into the, like, how do we make the most out of every single lead that comes in the door? That's a huge aspect of it. Obviously, it's making sure that the ones who say yes continue to say yes. And a good way to do that is to over communicate, create an amazing customer experience, even post them saying yes, to make them excited about that process, that what they've said yes to, remind them why they said yes in that process. But I think one of the questions I had for you was kind of like, what are companies doing that you're seeing in the marketplace right now? Because just like, I think just like it's even more today than ever before, getting 3 estimates, getting multiple quotes on a project. There's just as many competitors out there or more in the marketplace. It's like, how do companies differentiate? What's the unique offer that you're seeing companies use as success, even outside of destination motivation, to differentiate themselves in a market? Here's a $23,000 window bid. How do you differentiate from the next guy who's going to come in there with a $20,000 bid or a $14,000 bid for the same number of windows?
Yeah, I mean, we could spend 3 hours on that topic alone. And everyone, there's a lot of people that would have a lot of different opinions. But the companies, obviously that I'm seeing being the most successful in scaling, the fastest and greenfielding, they have this proven sales process that they've perfected, and they train on that week in and week out. Now, there's a dozen different, distinct sales processes. Just pick one from the hat. Most of them are pretty good. Some are better than others. Depends on what product you sell. But the companies that are hyper focused on that, they're the ones that are differentiating themselves. They're the ones that are, beating their competition day in and day out. And they're also the ones that are leveraging, the different vendors out there that support this industry, companies like Engage, for presentations, companies like Leap, for, providing estimates.
Mhm.
There was one company I met with in, what was it, January 3rd. I flew up, we did this kind of launch training. And before I went on to, give my training, they were going through goals, right? Which I thought was incredible. And so all of their whole sales team was there. And they were doing, 30-day goals, quarterly goals, and yearly goals, and literally going through the writing down. What's my close rate going to be? What's my rescission rate going to be? What's my, NSLI going to be? I mean, each individual sales rep was doing this, which I thought was powerful. But the most powerful thing that I saw was the company, president got up there and says, this is our goal for the year. We're going to grow from 200 million, which we finished out last year, to 300 million. So 100 million in one year of growth. And they said that, oh, it's going to happen. So, there's that side of it too, which I think is powerful.
Yeah, well, I think that, this industry is focused a significant amount on like sales training and how to be able to when you're in a home, selling the value of the, of the product and the company, and it's just like you said, there's a bunch of different flavors of sales processes out there, and the companies who can follow that simple sales process, again and again and again, is repeatable. But one thing I'm curious your thoughts on this is that when you're in a market that's saturated with a bunch of companies with very similar sales processes, your differentiation has to be in the company and the product that you're selling, or, in general. So is there ways to differentiate or even unique offers in a way that, you think about, why are you going to go with one brand of toothpaste over another, or any other purchases we make? We often are pushed by either the product selection because it matches our values, or it's like there's a unique offer that's pushing us in that direction versus this one today. Are you seeing, in even this economy or anything like that, that's, people are kind of leaning one direction or another, or even offers that are catching people's attention a little bit more than others?
Well, I don't want to toot our own horn here, but our program is really making a huge impact with that alone. We're seeing in specific markets, our clients beating out their competition, left and right, because they have this differentiator, this unique tool that, the homeowner sees this and they say, well, that's something that we need. That's something that we're going to use. And that's something that we desperately want, because of the last, few years of COVID, we had our vacation canceled. There was actually a unique survey that came out a couple weeks ago. It was looking at sort of wealthy travelers, and wealthy travelers are now actually, in fact, it was a whopping 69% of wealthy travelers said they don't want to spend more than, $500 a night. And I don't know if you've seen travel costs, but they've been just ridiculously inflated. A hotel and resort cost was up 28% just this year over last year, which was up 24% from the year before. And so to see, wealthy people, the majority of them say, they're cutting back on those travel costs, kind of puts things in perspective. So, when people are purchasing home improvement, which could be 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000, depending on the product, they do look at giving up their next vacation. And if one of our clients is able to provide both, that's a win-win for the homeowner that most homeowners want to take advantage of. So it really helps differentiate from competitive bids, but also helps create urgency in the sales process.
Well, I'm curious, where you obviously in the closing and post, and like improving cancellations. I think we've talked about this a little bit here too. Are you seeing like companies use vacation vouchers on like to get new business in the door, or even get a customer to go and say, a uniqueness, because people come in like they need interest and desire for the product that you have, right? They're looking for windows or roofing or bath or whatever the trade is. But is that helping? Do you have any measurables there of like a customer coming in the door or raising their hand there to even converting into a demo, and helping that improve that process versus obviously more on like the reason to purchase today? I'm curious kind of where
that all depends on like, marketing is like a whole nother story, right? So to answer your question, sometimes that works, in implementing the vacation voucher into the, as a call to action in marketing. And sometimes it doesn't work that great, depending on the ad, depending on the demographic, depending on, who knows what circumstances. We just had a big client of ours that ran ads in a very cold area, and it worked very well because people looked at that and said, well, we've been thinking about redoing XYZ, and it's freezing cold and that beach looks nice, let's call them. So in that regards, it works very well. Certain sources like retargeting ads for Facebook, we've seen very well, especially with HVAC companies, because or roofing companies, because those products can tend to be sort of a grudge purchase. It's like, okay, my AC went out, damn it, that's going to be expensive, but I need it, right? I need it. Windows you don't always necessarily need right away, but HVAC you need that, especially if it's peak summer or peak winter, right? You need the furnace. So if you see an ad that don't give up your next vacation for new air conditioner, get both, you're probably going to go there because you're curious about what that is, because you want to get something extra because this purchase is going to be miserable. So it really, the marketing side of it really depends. Although we do have certain strategies that work 100% of the time, like home show and event strategies. We don't focus on things like, and this is good for any company to hear this, but we don't focus on like, enter to win kind of thing, because and sometimes companies want to generate those nebulous leads, which is great, but we focus more on, hey, if you meet us from this event and purchase, you're going to get X. And that's sort of the lead incentive, which we've found to really differentiate companies, especially when there's multiple home improvement companies selling similar products at the same event.
Yeah, well, I think that's, that was kind of my curiosity, is that I think I could see it going both ways. It's like, well, that's a differentiator that you're, if you bring up, vacation vouchers in the front end of the conversation, prior to the demo, it can be like almost confusing of going like, well, I was really interested in just getting an estimate on windows. Like if I wanted a vacation, I would go on, whatever site and go find go book that myself. There's a focus principle there that does come into effect. But there is, like, I think in a crowded marketplace, companies are still struggling with, like, there's fewer leads in the marketplace, fewer customers, and you're trying to, like, wave a shiny object as many of those people who are actually in market as you possibly can, because everyone's vying for those business now. Leads are fewer, and you need to be able to, kind of create a unique offer on the marketing side of things alone. So I think there's like you said, it like home shows and stuff like that. What can you do to kind of drive curiosity in that front end of the sales process that you really don't communicate or talk about maybe until the sales process or on that side? So, yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm curious, anything just outside of that you're just as an industry at large, I'm always curious to hear just like what you might be hearing that companies are doing, like, to just differentiate their themselves kind of in a sales process as whole. Like, their products are very similar. Let's go in like the roofing market, even diving into the details of the vacation vouchers. So differentiating on the sales process, the sales reps in the door, they presented a price. How are companies using vacation vouchers to be able to sell that deal or create urgency?
Well, to answer your question in a different way as well, is like, I think, companies are leaning, more towards technology, at this point, to really help differentiate them. I mean, you whip out this fancy iPod, you do this fancy presentation, you
Mhm.
build this fancy estimate, that in itself is a really cool customer experience.
Yeah.
There's a wow factor there. Hey, let me help you design, here I have a picture of your house and I can show you exactly what it's going to look like,
Yep.
It's like mind blowing. Like, oh my God, that is freaking awesome. and,
Yep.
and when the guy before you came in, just asked you some questions and wrote you some, numbers on a piece of paper, there's a big difference there.
Yep.
Um,
Who do you more confident in that's going to do it? And it might cost more, but I would, yeah. It's going
yeah,
to print me off an estimate versus right one up. But yeah, there's a differentiation there too in some industries.
and just the presentation of it and
Yep.
just the show, being able to showcase, the product. It's really, really cool. So there's that kind of stuff. What our clients do with the vacation voucher system is, really based on sales psychology. So we sort of get away from like, but wait, there's more.
Yeah.
We push aside the sham wow guy and we focus heavily on like, okay, like how do we personalize this? How do we make it extremely credible, believable? There obviously, there's in any sales process, there's got to be that trust element. And how do we just create something that's like more fun and exciting, so it's not just so technical, which often sales presentations can be, very product
Mm-hmm.
focused, heavily focused. So it's answering some simple questions like, hey Sean, you like to vacation? I mean,
Yeah,
most
absolutely.
people are like, you got
Yeah.
anything coming up? Yeah, we were looking at going here, going there, and
Mm-hmm.
but it's expensive, so I don't know if we're gonna pull the trigger, and I don't know what this project. So you just now it's starting to make sense, and once they do tell a story as to why they're offering this. For example, hey, you picked a great time to be looking at replacing your bath. Our manufacturer has rewarded us with a handful of vacation vouchers that we get to give out to the next few qualified customers, and it does look like your project's going to qualify. So remind me, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. That just injects this extra excitement and really perceived value.
Mm-hmm.
You could offer somebody $1,500 off or 10% off. That's typically how companies differentiate themselves from a value standpoint, or price standpoint. But that eats up $1,500 or 10% of revenue or profitability, depending on the number. But the vacation voucher system is only a couple $100, but has the perceived value of a couple thousand, and you're tugging on emotional heartstrings. And look, most consumers buy emotionally, and then of course they justify their reasoning logically. That's when some people get into trouble within those 3-day right of rescission.
Yeah, well, I think you hit on something specific on that. And you just said is, I think there's the way in which you present it is not going randomly off into, but wait, there's more. You said, here's the paperwork, and then, but if just want to let you know, we've got this thing, but wait, there's more. There's a, vacation voucher that could go along with it, to make you sign today. I love that you're talking about even the sales process. You're asking questions about as you're building rapport and asking, you'd like to travel, getting some of that stuff out. But one thing you specifically said in that process was, as you're diving into asking those questions, as I'm blanking on my train of thought here, is being able to kind of slow roll and give out that, like, the manufacturer is providing this, there's only a limited quantity of these for the next qualified purchases.
Yeah.
There's only a few left. Is that I think there's, like, when you're sitting there and price dropping, I don't know, that's always been a hard thing for me, is when you're sitting there and going like, but if you sign today, there's 10% off. Or I think there's enough gimmicks out there in today's world that if you're able to even set it up as on a different stage there and walk it through a little bit differently, that it's like, well, we only got a few of these. We've been handed these, and remind me when we actually get to the sale, to the, estimate, I'll tell you a little about it. I think it shares a little bit different of a differentiation, as well as like, it's not a, like we're handed these by a manufacturer versus like, if you sign up today, we'll give you this in addition to it. As well. So I'm curious, like how other companies are kind of using that in the sales presentation, when it kind of seems like there is a little bit of like, I came here for home improvement, but I am, wanted to talk to
Yeah.
you about vacations here at the same time.
I'll give you a quick story that will help make sense of it, that I found fascinating. We just got this post-travel testimonial, a video actually from this homeowner that had bought a bath from one of our clients, a bath remodel, and she had said that she bought the bath specifically because of the vacation voucher. She was shopping around, and that was the ultimate differentiator. But she dove into why. It wasn't just some vacation. It was because the sales rep had asked her some questions. He had learned that her husband had just recently passed away. They had always talked about going to Napa Valley wine tasting, but never did. And unfortunately, he passed away before they were able to. But it weighed on her heart. So when they started talking about this, and he's like, "Well, just so you know, our company gives out these vacation vouchers with every purchase, with every qualified purchase, as a thank you gift." So they're the way they present it was a little bit different, but extremely effective. And she started getting choked up about that. She immediately was like, "Oh my God, you know what? I'm going to bring my daughter on this trip," and she did. She ended up bringing her daughter, and it was just this heartfelt, incredible story when she got back. And she forever has, our client, Newpro, to thank for that. I mean, it's not just an impact on, that sales process. It's an impact just personally for that family, it's what we gather from the testimonial. So it's that's the real story of what's happening, not just in that sales process, but sort of above and beyond that.
Yeah, well, I think there's just so many ways to kind of spin it here too, to be able to provide additional value. Because I think one thing I always think about when purchasing home improvements is like, there's certain home improvement projects where you see tangible and you go, I just did a full kitchen remodel and main level, and I could walk down to my main level and go, that looks nice. Like the floor looks nice, and I can feel, you feel like I spent a lot of money, but I can see the ramifications or rewards. But when you're like replacing windows, you're replacing a roof, you're replacing HVAC, there's certain products where you dump the money in there, you don't at all see the reward of it. Maybe your energy bill thanks you later, or there's certain of those products that are just, you don't feel any better. You just go, my bank account's less. And there too, what I love about this too is you're able to, give something that actually is experiential, that they can, like get some gratification out of. And then I think secondarily, I think one of the cool things I think you touched on here too is that just on the review side, like if you can give somebody a positive experience, like home improvement is not, let's be honest, it's kind of a painful experience to improve your home. Like you have to either be out of your home, you got to clean up, you got to, be out of the way. It's like you can make it as clean and simple as possible, but it's messy. Like we live in our homes and they're being improved while we live there or whatever. If you can provide a just standalone positive experience, like I think we've all had positive travel experiences, I think there is something to say about like my association with positive in a brand versus another. For those companies who do more than one trade too, it's like you're trying to win lifelong customers here too. So I think that I'm curious from like a review standpoint, like what, like I know you guys do a ton of reviews. I mean, even on your video right there now, your background talks about all these 5-star reviews, but talk about like how, again, differentiation is just in like the proof is in the pudding. We all look at reviews online today. Like how have you seen the vacation vouchers actually lead to reviews for the contractors?
Reviews are critical for contractors, really for any company these days.
For sure.
But for contractors specifically, one of the things about getting reviews is they're hard to get. Like it's like I was on a panel end of last year, and they were like, so how do you guys have so many dang reviews? And I'm like, you have to be a freaking psychopath, day in and day out on like getting reviews and reviews. And the companies that do that, are the ones that do well with that. But to answer your question, I mean, we had one client specifically, Window Nation. We've been working with them for 10 years. They've used over 30,000 vacation vouchers. So if there was ever an ultimate case study, I mean, they would be it. They did a study, actually. They told us about it after the fact, but they were like, we were trying to prove whether your program, was effective or not. And so they did this massive survey. And what they looked at was customer service scores with people who had received a vacation voucher and people who, were not a part of that promotion, but had bought in Windows and were a normal client. And what they found was that customers that received vacation vouchers ended up giving much higher customer service scores through Google, through Guild Quality, through all the different resources. So they came back to us with that, which we were like, told you so. But, it was profound for us to see that, because, those aren't always, sort of the numbers that we're looking at, right? We're always focused so heavily on like close rate and, cancellation rate, thing like that. So it does make an impact, a significant impact there at the sale and ongoing.
And do you guys do anything with that? I know obviously post close, you're sitting there and having a conversation about a company and then talking about the vacation voucher. Do you guys do any of that service for customers to get them reviews?
Oh yeah, we get it's not like your traditional resource of like, getting them to leave a Google review, like you would get through like G4 marketing or, some of those other companies. We actually get these reviews from the conversations that we have, 24 hours after the sale. So it's fresh, and they go into all the specifics of why they decided to purchase, with our client, which is extremely valuable for our clients, to see, what's working or what's not working. Just like, Engage has that back-end ability to, see what sales reps, the analytics on like where sales reps are spending their time on the different slides and things like that. That data is important. And our data is obviously a little bit different because it's actual feedback from the homeowners. But we turn those into testimonials, and then they choose to post those or not post those. Sometimes they choose not to post them just because they were the most expensive company we met with, but so.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is I think I could see how that would be actually really good feedback to post on your website and your sales reps to go and say, well, these are unpublished, these are people who just gave us feedback about the last, what that went through this program. And I think that would be, again, the more feedback, the more differentiation. I think in today's market, it's like reviews are a huge factor. You mentioned technology being a huge factor in differentiating your business. But, once you're in the sale, like especially, a sale that is not going to be produced, or maybe even as, like you said, like an HVAC or roofing, that's not like super exciting, sales, you were able to tie in a experience or something in addition to that to make it a fun, happy experience there too. Can all be helpful differentiators in that sales process to differentiate yourself.
We have a client that we called their homeowner 24 hours after the sale has been. She's like, you know what? I'm going to cancel. And we're like, oh, it is one of our customer service reps was like, what changed your mind? And she's like, well, they told me that they had this like massive, 10 football field manufacturing plant, but my hunch is they're probably, building windows out of their garage. And our customer service rep, we're highly trained and we know all our clients. Like, no, actually, we've been to the manufacturing plant and it is drop dead gorgeous. In fact, you should go there. Here's the address and go on tour. She's like, oh my God, I feel so silly now. And she ended up not canceling. But, not only was that a great save, but it also was a great training, moment for that sales reps or even the sales team. The way that they were presenting, their company and the specifics of how they build their windows and stuff, there could be some changes there. So that kind of information, adds a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that feedback component alone is huge from a third party and from a third party validation. I remember reading some study, this was like in the real estate industry, that was like even having a receptionist talk up a realtor, like increase the odds of that realtor being chosen by like 60%.
Yeah.
Because they like the receptionist going, oh, they're fantastic. Like you're gonna love them. Like
Yeah.
even that little bit of like a third party validation, like
Yeah.
having another company go, you made a good choice, is
Yeah.
it just makes us feel like, oh, okay. Like just and it just
100%.
again just validates our choices in life overall. So I think just that alone, having that call follow up, especially in that rescission period of going, you should call your customer. And if you take one thing alone, even if you're not doing vacation vouchers, you should call your customer and go, hey, you made a great decision to go with us. Like that alone I think would save you some sales.
It would make an impact on me,
Yeah.
with larger purchases. I mean, that's why you always, you call your friends, you call your best friends when you're doing something big or you're thinking about doing something, because you're looking for that validation. Like, you tell me I did the right thing here.
Yep. Or you get no feedback and you're like, shoot, now I'm just sitting in more of like, shit, did I really make the right choice? Yeah, exactly. Unless you have a friend who's willing to call you out. No, that's awesome. Well, Caleb, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. And where can people kind of get to know you or kind of learn more about Destination Motivation, or just kind of reach out to you directly?
Our website is increaseoursales.com, increaseoursales.com. And then there's contact forms on there and you can learn all about us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm so honored that you were able to join us and kind of chat through this here today. And with that being said, you have a great rest of the day.